I see the same problem happening with aspiring writers, with beginning writers over and over again. And it's a problem I talk about in almost every video. Too many writers, too many aspiring bloggers treat their blogs like a personal journal. And in today's video, I'm going to show you a way where you can write about yourself, where you can tell your story, where you can get your words out there about your life to other people without boring them to death. But before we get to that, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the little notification bell so you get brand new videos when they come out. That notification bell is very important because it's going to help you on your blogging journey to get new content. So let's dive into the topic today. How do you write about yourself? You have this urge, this itch to want to tell your story, right? And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a lot of aspiring writers get onto places like medium.com because they want to share stories. They start blogging because they have a lot of things that they want to share about their life, and that's cool, and that's something that you can do. But if you don't do it the right way, it's going to come across boring. It's going to come across selfish. It's going to come across navel-gazing, and it's not going to give you the audience that you want. So let's take a look at some different things that you can do to actually write about yourself and make your story interesting to other people. So the first thing you want to ask yourself when you are writing something about yourself in an article, you want to ask yourself if your life experiences intersect with the readers, right? So what I don't want to see is for you to write some random story. Oh, I went to breakfast. I went to this trip to Kansas. I went and hung out with my friend. Like, people don't care about your journal entry, but they care about the adventure that you had, and they want to have a sense of adventure themselves. If you go through a heartbreak in your life, other people have experienced heartbreak so they can go through that, right? I've told stories about my life, like rebuilding from after having a divorce. I've told stories about getting out of jail and fixing my life through ups and downs, right? So I tell little tidbits of my life, but it's in a way where the reader can look at themselves and say, hey, the story that he's telling me right now is similar to a situation in my life or has helped me feel the same emotion in my life, right? So basically, you want to avoid the thing that most writers do, which is this need to kind of vomit out random details and stories of your life. Always think about how your life intersects with theirs. So take, for example, people who write memoirs. I often talk about the memoir Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. It wasn't an amazing best-selling book because she told a random story about her life. It was an amazing book because the story in the book, which is basically about her going through a divorce and traveling the world and going through these crazy experiences, it was a window into her life for people who felt trapped in their domestic situations, felt like they wanted an escape, felt stuck in their lives and wanted to move on, right? So you want to see how things intersect instead of simply writing just about yourself. And actually, I'm going to show you another technique right now that'll show you how you can do a better job of incorporating your story and making it in a way that people want to read. So the next thing that you can do is try something called the story hook opener. So basically, the story hook opener is a way of getting your story to begin a post and then moving forward and just giving them some pieces of advice, giving them some tips, giving them some takeaways from your story. So if you do it that way, you have the combination of telling something about your life, and then when you go to share the actual points, it makes it very clear what they can get from your story. So for example, one of my favorite writers, James Altucher, he's actually the person I kind of learned, reverse engineered this technique from. He would write an article, it would say something, the title might be something along the lines of 10 reasons why you should quit your job. So he wouldn't just go into the 10 reasons why he quit his job. He would start with this crazy story about how he had a job that he hated and he walked out of the office and he never came back to the office, didn't grab his things, didn't talk to HR, just left, right? So he starts and opens with all these random stories, and he tends to open all of his posts with some story from his life, but then he goes on and he'll list out the points the reasons why you should quit your job after telling the story about him quitting his job, right? If he wants to tell something, if he wants to have a post, talking about how to reinvent yourself, he'll first tell a story about how he was down and out. He'll tell a story about how he was in the wrong career, stuck in the wrong relationship, stuck in the wrong situation, how he got out of it. And then he'll say, here are my 10 things that I learned from these experiences, right? So the story hook, you have a story that you can begin with that hooks the reader in, but then you move into giving them some sort of takeaways. So it's a very easy framework you can use to incorporate your story and then make it obvious what the reader can get from them. Another thing that you can do when you're writing about yourself is check the ratio between the word I and the word you that you use in your blog post. So one of the telltale signs of what usually tends to be a blog post that is way too focused on you is that you will write the word I most of the time, right? So that's what I see when I read these articles that I consider these journal entries, right? Every next sentence will be I this, I went there, I did that. And without using the word you're never going to connect with your readers and let them know that you're thinking of them, let them know that you're talking to them. So you don't have to do all of one thing or all of another. Just find a balance between those two things and try to keep the ratio a bit closer to 50-50 instead of 100% I and 0% you. Another word that you can use is the word we. So often when I'm talking about common experiences that we share, I will use the word we to build a sense of camaraderie with me and the reader and talk about the fact that we're all in this together. So when I'm telling my story, I might allude to, we've all been in this situation before. We all feel this way at times. When going through X scenario in my life, it's similar to the way that we all feel about X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense? You want to find ways to blend your story in, and there are plenty of techniques that you can use to do that. I'll make sure to even link to some resources in an article I wrote about the subject a while back for a little bit of further reference. And one really good thing that you can do after you finish writing an article, especially one where you're including stories about yourself, is just simply to be honest and ask yourself if you would read your own story if you weren't you. And this speaks to a general skill that you're going to need to become a better writer, and that is the ability to step outside of yourself and try to analyze your own work as an outsider. This can be really difficult because obviously you're very close to your work. It's very personal to you. So, it's going to be tough kind of seeing the forest from the trees, right? But you have to try, and you have to be honest with yourself and understand that you are writing for other people. No matter what, if you want to have an audience that likes your writing, you're going to need an audience. So try to put yourself in the shoes of an audience member and see if it really resonates, or look at it and see if you are doing what I'm talking about, if you are kind of just writing a diary entry, if you are talking about yourself a little bit too much, if you are just kind of telling random stories without creating kind of a coherent narrative or some takeaways for the reader. So those are quick few tips that you can use to write about yourself successfully, implement them in your work, and try to have a bit more balance to connect with your audience more, and you will see more success, more views, and an overall growth in your writing. Okay, if you check in the description below, you're going to see a lot of different resources for you. One of them being a free 5-day email course that teaches you the nuts and bolts of being successful on the website medium.com, the website that I personally used to make a full-time living writing. You're also going to see a link to my premium flagship course for those of you who want to dive in right away. It talks about everything that I know about being successful on Medium. So jump right in and get started if you are in that camp. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the little notification bell so you get brand new videos when they come out. Share the video with your friends, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, whatever the platform requires you to do for engagement, please do it. And I will see you on the next video.